calling all millionaires and future millionaires. Welcome to Go to Millions. I'm Ari Murray. Nice to meet you. This is go-to-market strategy for the big dogs. Woof, woof. Sit back, relax, or go get your steps, or add stuff to your cart. That's 100% what I recommend you do. Whatever you do, please pay close attention to these million-dollar ideas from the biggest and baddest operators and founders in the entire world. Off we go.
Hi, how are you? Are we having a nice day? Is it morning? Is it night? Whatever time it is, I hope that today is a good day for you, and I'm very much rooting for you. Today, you're going to hear a virtual event that we previously recorded, and you'll hear me talk to my literal favorite person that I know, Jeff Faber. He runs his title is Chief Information Officer at HexClad, but in my mind, he runs all things tech, digital, information, systems, data, and he is a huge help to my team as we work with HexClad on all things growth. And I think he's just the most talented, smartest, kindest, and funniest, which you'll see. On this episode, expect to hear some million-dollar ideas from Jeff about tech excellence. And while you're at it, look at HexClad.com for the craziest, coolest homepage of your entire life. Off we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. How are you thinking about success for 2023? Here's a million-dollar idea for you, Tapcart. Launch a mobile app for your Shopify store with Tapcart to make mobile shopping easier and boost cart value. Visit tapcart.com/millions to get started with 1 month free. Thank you so much for coming. I have a quick PSA. Go to Millions is here to give you real learnings, and we pride ourselves on doing things a bit differently. You're actually going to get to know the person behind the brand. This case, it's HexClad. We care about who they are and not just what they do. We also care about their shopping habits, so Jeff, get ready. Jeff, are you ready to jump in? I can't wait for the millionaires to meet you. Please welcome my friend Jeff.
Hi, Ari. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being here. I had to beg and I had to plead, and it was worth it. Jeff is the Chief Information Officer at HexClad, which is my favorite cookware brand in the world, and also a very good friend of mine and very funny. Let's kick it right off. I've got millions of questions, or 11, whatever. So what made you interested in e-com in the first place?
I spent the last 30 or so years in the finance industry. Always, around software, around tech, around process, but, really e-com was something I hadn't really thought of until I started talking to the team here at HexClad. What did I like about it? Look, I've been in finance, like I said, for a long time. Finance is all about running spreadsheets, pushing papers. The joke I like to make is I sit around moving money around to make rich people richer by helping semi-rich people get a little richer than that. Not quite a brand purpose. I come in here, I get to touch a physical product. I get to, do something. And look, we're not curing cancer here, but I do feel like cookware is important, right? We are touching people's lives. We're in people's kitchens, one of the most important parts of their lives and their family life. So I really love the fact that I get to touch something real and that I get to have a real impact.
I love that. And I think you would never know working with you that you haven't only done e-commerce your whole career. But it makes sense why none of the numbers scare you and why you're good at that side too.
Well, that's fair. That's kind. And it's the other thing is now that I've gotten here, I've learned so much, and it's even more fun than I imagined. Just really thinking about consumers and thinking about real life is totally cool. The way we run the business is so different, right? So I've learned all about A/B testing, doing the CRO work. There's so many opportunities to kind of build and refine. A lot of what I did in the past was, you sit in a room, you draw something on a whiteboard, you say, this is the answer, you got the answer, and that's your answer. Here, we're constantly evolving, we're constantly changing, we're kind of looking at what works and adding to it, subtracting from it. So that part of it is really awesome.
You wouldn't really think that a background in finance would lead to a technical e-commerce role, which I know is your whole purview is really everything technical at HexClad. So Was that a learning curve, or did that just come naturally because you've always just been able to put the pieces together?
Really more the latter. I was in finance and I've run companies and I've been the CFO and the COO, but I was also the kid writing code for my father, the CPA, when I was 12.
No way.
And the last bunch of my years while in finance have really been more around how the company runs and what processes we need to put in place, and how we build repeatable solutions to what feel like crazy problems on a daily basis. So that part of it was pretty natural.
Yeah, it's kind of what you do right now. What is your favorite part of your role as CIO?
I think it's the fact that I get to bring order into, I don't want to call it chaos, that would sound bad, but I get to create some order and some process where there wasn't any. I think this would be true of any smallish company, but in HexClad's case, where, we've seen doubling year over year in terms of our size, both our revenue size as well as our people size and our number of orders size, we're really transforming the business every year. And like anything, you're going to grow up with certain processes that work, and being able to come in clean and kind of look at things not through a lens of this is working, what do we need to do to change it? But, if I had a blank slate, how would I get to write it from scratch? And then really talk about that. And look, we obviously don't do everything. We're not rebuilding the company every 6 months, but the ability to come in clean and add value pretty quickly by changing some things that from the outside seem simple or are straightforward didn't necessarily come up as you were just growing incrementally. So that part's fun. The other cool part is, since I work on the website, I get to play in Photoshop sometimes, which I'm terrible at, but I like to get the opportunity to sit down and hack a graphic.
So you're better than me because my team makes fun of me. The entire team works in Figma, and I spend all day in Figma, but just pointing and being like, I would have left. So what about that? And that's always my resolution every month. I'm like, okay, February, I'm going to take a Figma class. It's over. I'm going to do it. And now at the end of the year, in October, I stopped promising. And I was like, okay, January, it's a new me. We're going to all of us get better, but they all got better. And I just keep pointing. But well, that you were like,
we'll have to fly you out to LA and make you sit on a plane and do a 2-hour Figma course.
I think I need it. I definitely need it, actually. But back to what you said about like order. I think when even agencies come on board to HexClad, I think you do a really good job at being strict in a really like strategic, fair way where, there's certain rules for Shopify, there's certain rules for access. And as an outside team, that's actually very comforting because we don't want to break anything. We also don't know where the boundary is, and we don't know how every system before us was laid. And it's actually often we find out there was a rule because we broke it, but here there's no rules to break because there's order, and it's very controlled, but it's still able to move quickly because nothing's breaking, which is a big change. So you do it well.
I hadn't really thought about it that way, but I was having a little introspection on my flight out here on Monday morning. Never taking the 6 a.m. again out of the East Coast, much worse. People have always said, I like big companies, I like small companies, and I've never felt like I really cared. And I've worked in all kinds, right? I've worked in 3-person shops. I've worked in 30,000-person shops. Most recently, I was at a 30,000-person shop. And the reflection that I had was, I really have decided now that I do love working in a smaller shop, 3, 10, 12, 20, small enough that I can really have an impact every day. And on the organization as a whole, on a given person and what they do. But, that experience in being in some of those bigger companies and having to follow some of those rules and having to create some of those rules. And at the end of the day, when you're in that environment, you realize that as much as rules can sound mean and feel mean, they give structure. So the fact that you essentially said just that is super helpful and encouraging, and helps me think about, my role here in addition to being the tech guy. I have come from bigger places, so I'm always thinking about how can I help HexClad behave more like a big company in the good ways without robbing it of its culture and spirit, which are both amazing.
Right. And like data infrastructure and systems, it's not really good to be like caution to the wind. Like that's one of the only great things you could learn from a big company that might move slower is that there's like securities teams and all of these really important people who make it all actually not like combust into flames. And I think you do it well. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, we were scared of you, but now we respect it. So we see it.
Nobody's scared of me. Come on.
No, well, I mean, not anymore. We're friends now. How do you approach a new addition to your tech stack, especially when the systems are really important and intertwined?
I think about it probably in two different ways. We have the big things. So we're in the process right now, actually, of implementing a new system that's going to help us track our inventory, manage our warehouse, really kind of level up on our internal reporting, which is something that's going to be super important. So we can think about what's in stock, what's not in stock, what are the things we need to be doing to grow the business, and what's going to get in the way. So super important stuff that's going to touch every area of the business. So how do I do that? I want to think about first, what should I use? And there I really leverage my network, my team, my friends. Now, you've heard us 100 times, Ari, as a partner in any one of the various Slack channels. Does anybody know this? Does anybody know that? Right? That's the first step. I can read websites. I can take demos. I can read reviews, all of which are fake anymore. But if I know somebody that's implemented a system, that's worked with a partner, that's got firsthand experience and can tell me that I can trust the other party, what to watch out for, that's worth its weight in gold. So that's always where I'll start. And then, once we pick a vendor, once we pick a product and start the process, again, bringing some of my big company experience into a smaller, kind of looser company, I think the most important thing we can do is make sure that everybody's engaged. I'm still learning the business. There are more kind of interconnections across the areas of the business here than I've seen in other places. I don't mean here, HexClad's specifically, but I think in this business because finance is so intertwined with marketing, is so intertwined with production. I mean, it's all kind of one organism. So I try to make sure I get everybody together, no matter what it is, certainly to start, kick off the project, make sure everybody understands what's happening. In almost every case, I'm going to have someone raise their hand that I wasn't expecting and say, have you thought about this, how this is going to impact my part of the world because of X? And then we're able to incorporate that. So keeping everybody looped and giving them the opportunity both to be engaged, to feel part of it, and to provide advice, I think is huge. The kind of other answer to your question, there are a million small changes that happen. We're growing rapidly in terms of people, in terms of process. People always want to add an app to Shopify, want to add a productivity app in the org. And there, I take a much looser view. I don't know enough, and maybe in 6 months or 2 years, I'll feel differently. But I don't know enough to validate what's a good and bad app. I'd much rather make sure it's okay, right? Either me or one of the guys on my team will make sure it's not going to break our systems and make sure that it's not going to slow us down. But then let's say, have at it. Let me know. Everything's free. Everything's on a trial. Everything's $300 a month. It's not going to move the needle from that perspective. So if it's going to help people, I'm going to support it, at least to try it out.
It's crazy that you said you're still learning the business, and you said that, I think, one other time too. As someone who came here when you were already here, you would have expected you were like there when they broke ground, So it's weird. Yeah, it's weird to see that like you're still also getting your hands dirty and figuring out how it all works. But I
We'll see. I have a different answer in 5 or 6 years. I might still be saying the same thing.
Hopefully, it means you're like still like open-minded. So I like it. Okay, so HexClad recently redid their website. Tell us what's involved in a full website makeover, and you should be very proud. It looks insane. And I also think the timing of your website push was very bold because this happened in a Q4. So how does a project like that get managed? How do you be involved? And what does it feel like to launch a new site with such traffic?
Scary.
Yeah.
I'll respond to one piece first. You can call it bold and tell us how cool we are. But the reality is, we knew we wanted to get a new site up before the holiday season this year. Our old site, which, served us very well. And I'm proud of that site too. I mean, from where we were when we built it to where it took us, I can't give enough credit to the team that built that thing and took it to where we were. But we were ready for a change. We wanted to get that change in before the big season. And I joined up in June. This was a project that we were just kicking off, and we didn't have a lot of choice, right? It was then or January. So I'm glad we got it done. It wasn't as stressful as I feared, right? I had a great team, right? We worked with Van Group. For those of you that know them, They're really fantastic. They really helped us a lot with all aspects, right? The physical design, the guidance on what was going to look good and what was going to work, as well as, of course, what's going to resonate and what's going to provide a customer journey that's going to be meaningful and helpful and lead to a conversion. They had all that input. They really kept us on track. Again, I was still pretty new here, so I was trying to figure out who the players were to get input from. And on something like the website at an e-com, I mean, the answer to that question is freaking everybody. Right? And everybody wants to make sure that everyone has. Yep. But it's important, right? It's the lifeblood of the business. So that part, was sometimes a little exhausting, but it was great because I had everybody's engagement and feedback. One of the challenges was, a lot of times we get good feedback that was conflicting. Right. Who do I piss off if this one wants it green and that one wants it blue? So that part was fun. One of the most interesting challenges that I wouldn't have ever anticipated ahead of time was the kind of circular nature of the build, right? I thought we'd start with the design process. I'd get a framework and then we drop in copy and content at our leisure. And that was true to an extent, but in a lot of cases, the content and the copy that we wanted to drop in impacted the design. So in hindsight, I would have done those much more in tandem so that we didn't get to a place where we're holding up the finalization of the design and the testing so we can get the content licked. Well, it looks really good. Everyone go to HexClad.com and tell me it's not the best hero homepage you've ever seen. And the flames sorry, I spoiled it with the flames. There's flames. That's all right. The visual is still worth seeing. Get out there, everybody. Here's the thing. Do you want to see huge success in 2023? I know you do, and here's how you're going to do it. With Tapcart. When you add Tapcart to your tech stack, you're giving your customers the best mobile experience. Turn browsers into returning customers and generate impressive revenue streams. Launch your mobile app in 2 weeks by visiting tapcart.com/millions today and get 1 month free. Everyone has a business hill that they die on. What's yours? I definitely don't have one. I think probably, if I pick a class, a thing, I try to spend a lot of time, especially more recently in my career, thinking about the way we behave in our business dealings. I want to make sure that when I'm doing the work, I'm being honest, I'm being transparent, I'm trying to be supportive of people, not just because I'm loosey-goosey, because anyone that knows me knows that that's almost the complete opposite. I tend to, by nature, be very focused and direct and let's just get it done. But work, especially in these days where, we spend so much time doing it, it's got to be about growing. It's got to be about learning. And to the extent I can help people get there, that's what I want to do. I do spend a lot of time thinking about what the business feels like, what our values are, how we project those values and enforce those values, and what we do when we have team members that don't work along those values. So that's a lot of it. If I had to pick one thing, and this will shock you, Ari, it's, let's try to have fun. Yeah. Right? Probably not the most important business idea anyone's ever had, but to me, it's important because if we're enjoying each other, if we're enjoying the work, we're going to have better output and we're not going to, be tired about being here. I won't spill, but Jeff and I bonded particularly because we were in a big meeting, a very important, where I'm going with this, a very important meeting. And I was wearing a hat and I wasn't wearing sunglasses, but he compared me to a certain Walmart. I've never come back from it, and I've never worn a hat again at work, but our friendship was cemented on that day. So it's okay. I deserved it. I was having a bad hair day, so it all made sense to me, but you need someone who's going to make it fun to work there and to work for you, because when people care about who they're around, then they care if it does well. That's internally or as a partner. So you do it well, and we'll never wear a hat again. Oh, I hope I didn't ruin your hat wearing days that way, but no, it's okay. It was actually like some real candid, important feedback I needed to hear, and it's made me a better person. Wait, I have a graphic. No, I'm just kidding. No. This is luckily going to be a podcast, so we're okay. I'm not thinking anything. No problem. Keep it moving. How do you make sure that your team or even your partners use the tech that you buy to the fullest? So even like every partner doesn't need a seat in a certain account, or how do you manage just
what it means to manage so many softwares and so many people that touch them?
It's a good question, and it's a hard problem because there are so many different pockets of expertise. I guess another way to say that is sometimes silos, but I don't mean it that way. It's good. It's positive. Everyone has a place where they really are the expert. So I try to defer to them where I can, right? Do I sometimes go crazy? Do I need 1,800 people with logins to my Shopify? No, by the way, that audit's coming.
That's okay.
Right? But
I'm going to live through it. You all stay.
The good news is most of these things are pretty scalable at this point. We can add a reasonable number of people. It's one of the benefits of our scale, right? I've run companies where, an extra $1,200 a year in user license was, a big deal. I had to go through a bunch of approvals, or I had to really work hard to keep it to a minimum. Here, if there's a reasonable justification, I want you on the piece of software. I want to do everything I can to keep you, the individual, productive, engaged, and not feeling like they have to jump through hoops. Because I've had organizations where you got to jump through hoops to get the job done, and it's annoying, right? I guess it goes back to the previous point. So the shorter answer to your question, I take a pretty, let's get them on there approach, and then I just make sure that we keep track and that we audit. I don't ever want to constrain based upon need or perceived need, but I absolutely want to constrain based upon best practices and ensuring that I don't get to a place where I've got, 200 users on a piece of software and I don't even know who they are or what they can do. So we do tend to have a pretty rigorous process around auditing after the fact and sending out, are you still here? Because you're about to get deleted emails.
Is there pressure in having a site that has such high traffic, especially when there's new product launches or Q4? Like, how does it feel when you deploy anything and immediately thousands of people can see it?
I think the answer is in some ways yes, but in some ways no. Look, it's definitely scary for me. Again, I'll say it for the 9th time, new to the space, right? The fact that I can make a mistake and crash a site or a page, and I can literally point to the number of dollars that we didn't make in that hour or 2 hours or 6 hours, that took me a little while to get comfortable with. But, the reality is we make decisions every day, and I was thinking about, kind of what's changed in my life. One that comes to mind a lot and is A/B testing. It's kind of core to the business in a way that I did not understand at all before I came in here. Everything we do, right? It obviously starts with the base case. Which of these landing pages are going to work better? Let's do a test. But it extends to almost everything. Which of these websites is going to work better? Which way we're going to think about solving this problem or creating this journey? And kind of part and parcel with an A/B test is the fact that there's going to be a loser. So you're going to make a decision every day that you're going to lose X number of dollars in sales, X number of dollars in conversion, so you can get smarter. And the same is true, on a slightly larger scale when I'm implementing the site, right? If something goes wrong, if we put up a product page and, it takes us 3 hours to figure out that it was redirecting to the wrong place and we lost 500 people, that sucks. I never want to do that, but it happens. And it costs us a couple bucks, but it would have cost us more to over-test and over-engineer the process. So I sleep at night knowing that we'll make some mistakes, we'll get some things wrong, but at the end of the day, as long as we keep pushing forward, it's going to work out for the best.
My first job ever, we had a very important hero SKU, and it was a snack company. And from 1 week to the next, that SKU just tanked. Everyone was freaking out. And I was the person in charge of listing products because I was 23 and that was what you do. And I didn't put inventory to the product. And that is important if it's your hero SKU. So we're why is this just not selling? What could it be? But it was me. It was Ari. So
I was waiting for the end so I could say, hey, at least you got a good warning out of it. But you didn't get a good warning. You just learned not to forget to put in inventory.
But now I remember. So I guess, who knows? And then mobile first is key in e-com. How is your current site putting mobile first?
That's a good question. That was another one that was hard for me. I've already described my number of years of experience, so it won't shock anybody listening to know that I tend to do most of my big ticket shopping on a desktop. So to think that you dang kids are coming in here and spending hundreds or thousands of dollars on your little 5-inch screen, I can't get my head around it. But I have. The stats have made it very clear. I'm the outlier here. I'm not who we're designing for. So how do we do it, right? I think, we just try to think about mobile all the time, right? If we're looking at Figmas, we're not going to look at desktop versions, right? Those are the afterthought. Any kind of validation that we're doing around what we want something to look like, how we want it to flow, we design it for mobile. Once we're happy there, we'll come back and we'll say, okay, well, now we've got a bigger screen on a desktop. What else could we do differently? But we start from mobile. When we do our testing of customer journeys and we run through the 9 different ways that someone might get from A to B, we do all that on mobile, right? So we really try to just make sure that we're driving that. As we go into 2023, we'll start to look at putting up an app, maybe. I have mixed feelings on that. I'm a big fan of as few streams as I can have, but I want to make sure that we're meeting the customers where they are and providing the best and easiest journey that we can for them.
How do you approach scaling technology in a rapidly growing company? So, like when every day is bigger than the day before, how do you know you're picking the right software?
Again, I think a big part of it is just knowing that the best decisions we can make are the ones that we can make with the information in front of us. Mm-hmm. Because the business is changing so quickly. And, when I look at HexClad today and over the last 2 years, I pick every 6 months and say it's a completely different business. So I try to make sure we're thinking about the future, but at the same time, I don't get so bogged down, because in a business as quickly growing and as ever changing as this one, and I think probably any growing e-com, right? I'm not trying to say that we're special there, but you can very quickly suffer from decision paralysis, right? So making sure that you're doing an appropriate amount of due diligence, but at some point you pull a ripcord and you make it happen. Where I can, I'll make incremental changes, right? If I can add something in and then layer in, let's do only the New Jersey orders through this piece of software today, so we make sure everything works, then I'm certainly going to do that, right? If I can then 5% of my customer support traffic through a new platform while the old one is still up, I'm going to do that. On the other hand, if we're talking about transformative change, like putting in this new WMS I was talking about, look, there's all the obvious project management pieces to it. For me, the biggest one is communication and over communication, making sure that everyone knows what's going on, making sure that we're not surprising anybody with a change that's going to mess up their day. For me, when I think about what tools to put in, I'm thinking about impact, right? I'm thinking about what's going to help us grow and scale for the next 100 days and 100 weeks.
Yeah, I love that. Very important last question. Where can the millionaires find you, and where can listeners go to shop HexClad? And just plug yourself so that they can meet you again.
Well, you can find our products on our amazing website, HexClad.com. Definitely feel free to shoot me a note with how cool it is and what you think is the coolest part. We really love it. And by the way, I got special approval just before this call. So for those of you that are listening, when you're on that site and you get to check out with your amazing new cookware or knives or whatever it is you're buying. Pepper Mills. Thank you. Yes, we're pushing Pepper Mills. Right. We've got a discount code for you. Go to Millions.
GOMILLIONS.
Yes. So use that code. We'll get you 10% off whatever you got going. Get your Valentine's Day bundles. Get your President's Day stuff, or hold out for the barbecue stuff. Oh, don't tell anybody. That's later.
You're good at this. Okay, cool. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for coming. I hope you come back very, very soon. And you've been my favorite guest since the last guest, because I'm not allowed to say that, but I love you. And thank you so much.
My favorite podcast today, so thank you very much for having me. I had a good time.
Favorite podcast today. What an honor. Well, thank you. And we'll see everyone later, and have a beautiful day. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much for listening. It was a pleasure talking with you. Keep up to date with Go to Millions by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts. And if you learned something with us here today, tell a friend for me, will ya? Thank you again, and let's chat soon. Bye!